Jason Stanley is an academic and an authority on propaganda and fascism. I have been listening to the audiobook version of his 2018 book, How Fascism Works, and I found a particular passage in the book quite stunning in how it relates to the entire internet. So, in this passage, which I will play for you in a moment, Stanley is talking about RT, which is a Russian state funded propaganda network. And the way that RT works is they platform every conceivable opinion. So they will have everything from like a far left person to a neo Nazi on and everything in between. And it creates, as Stanley describes it, this cacophony of voices that destabilizes our collective understanding of truth. And this is something that was designed purposefully by the Russian government, but it so perfectly mimics what has emerged naturally on the internet. And it's, I think, a fitting critique of the entire internet. And to be clear, I'm not advocating that we say the internet is not responsible media and then just turn our phones off, because whether or not we engage with the internet, it is still this network of algorithmic pipelines that are funneling junk to people. And so I think the way that we work within that reality and within that dynamic is trying to get into people's algorithmic feeds and put some cracks in their understanding of like false reality, right? So I'm not sharing this as an implied argument for disengaging, but it is such a fascinating summation of what I think is a huge problem with basically every major content platform on the internet. So check this out.
Mill seems to think that knowledge, and only knowledge, emerges from arguments between dedicated opponents. Such a process, according to Mill, destroys prejudice. Mill would surely then be pleased with the Russian television network RT, whose motto is, "Question more." If Mill is correct, RT, which features voices from across the broadest possible political spectrum, from neo-Nazis to far leftists, should be the paradigm source of knowledge production. However, RT's strategy was not devised to produce knowledge. It was rather devised as a propaganda technique to undermine trust in basic democratic institutions. Objective truth is drowned out in the resulting cacophony of voices. The effect of RT, as well as the myriad conspiracy theory producing websites across the world, including in the United States, has been to destabilize the kind of shared reality that is in fact required for democratic contestation. What did Mill get wrong here? Disagreement requires a shared set of presuppositions about the world. Even dueling requires agreement about the rules. You and I might disagree about whether President Obama's healthcare plan was good policy. But if you suspect that President Obama was an undercover Muslim spy seeking to destroy the United States, and I do not, our discussion will not be productive. We will not be talking about the costs and benefits of Obama's health policy, but rather about whether any of his policies mask a devious anti-democratic agenda. In devising the strategy for RT, Russian propagandists, or political technologists, realized that with a cacophony of opinions and outlandish possibilities, one could undermine the basic background set of presuppositions about the world that allows for productive inquiry. One can hardly have reasoned discussion about climate policy when one suspects that the scientists who tell us about climate change have a secret pro-homosexual agenda, as for example the evangelical media leader Tony Perkins suggested on an October 29, 2014 edition of his radio program, Washington Watch. Allowing every opinion into the public sphere and giving it serious time for consideration, far from resulting in a process that is conducive to knowledge formation via deliberation, destroys its very possibility. Responsible media in a liberal democracy must, in the face of this threat, try to report the truth and resist the temptation to report on every possible theory.